Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Jason Lange. He is a men's embodiment coach, group facilitator, and evolutionary guide. He helps men drop in and wake up to deeper clarity in their lives, purpose, and relationships. Welcome to the show, Jason.
So excited to be here, AJ. Thank you.
You are welcome to the show, Jason. You are welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk about. We'll talk about men's issues, mental health, and a lot of things, relationships, and more. So, my first question to you, Jason, is you talk about, every man should be in a men's group. But men want to be around girls, several of them, especially when you are very young, so that you can get more chances to forge the kind of relationships that you want. Help us understand, why do you want to send toward them towards men's group, and men want to be around a lot of women, many of them, so that, as I said, for relationships and, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So, men grow best around other men for all kinds of reasons in history and culture and how we've developed. But we actually grow into the deepest, most powerful, and most trustable versions of ourselves when we're around men who can hold us accountable, who can support us, who can challenge us, and who can help us move towards our deepest visions in life. And lo and behold, one of the great benefits to deepening ourselves as men and getting on track with our direction, our purpose, our presence is we tend to attract the feminine more. So we do attract more of the women we want to spend time with. But the way to kind of grow ourselves forward often comes from being around other men who just get it and who can see us and push us and help us develop and make sure we're actually moving towards the things we want to move towards with a sense of direction in our life. And that is often very attractive to men or women. And it helps us become more trustable men that other people feel safe and relaxed and comfortable with us leading.
Right, right. So how can we be sure that men will be able to tell you more things about women if we don't interact with women at the right time? Or is it that men has to be around men for a certain age and then they could go, but then they will not understand. The biggest complaint of women is that you men don't understand them. Men don't understand their emotions. So if men are more with men, how will they understand more about women and forge relationships which are going to be, in terms of long lasting?
Yeah, well, what women often want from men is our capacity to actually be present, to be fully here in the moment, to be present, listening, feeling, and available to them, right? And to be able to express ourselves and receive their experience, their emotions. Now, the thing is, we can learn to do that most easily with other men. So, most of us men from an early age are taught to get out of our bodies, get out of our emotions. If we show emotions, we're weak, we're not men, right? Um, we're less than. But the thing is, the most manly men I know are not afraid of their emotions. They're not afraid of grieving or being angry or being upset. They know how to go right into their hurt and stay grounded and present in it. And when we learn to do that with other men in a safe way, lo and behold, we can do that same thing for women, where a lot of guys are afraid. Oh my God, my woman's afraid, angry at me, or she's mad at me, or she's upset at me. She might leave. And that's what causes the problem when a woman feels like, oh my God, this man won't stay with me through my full emotional expression. So where do we go to train and do that actually? It's with other men, where we can learn to be connected to ourselves and to share vulnerably with them without losing touch with ourselves. And that capacity, kind of like working out in a gym, we can then take into our relating with women.
Right, right. Well explained, Jason. Now, help us understand, the challenges that men face nowadays. What are the issues, and why is it so much of discussion about, about men nowadays? And there is a lot of discussion about women also. Earlier, there used to be less discussion, but there was many used to be very happy relationships. Nowadays, we have more discussion about, men, about women, about relationships, and still the problem persists and it's growing day by day. Help us understand this in terms of, especially in terms of challenges for men, issues for men in
Mhm.
today's time.
Yeah, well, there's two big things I would say, AJ. One is which it used to be as men, as long as we were providing, that was enough, right? As long as we could provide in our relationship, provide in our families, that was enough. And there were certain roles in many different cultures across the world where the man was expected to do some things and the woman was expected to do some other things. All of that began to disintegrate and dissolve in the last 40 years or so, where women were able to step into their independence and their power and leave the home and have their own wants and needs and desires and not just be relegated to being mothers. And that shifted a lot of things. And then us men, we were invited into, hey, you get to be a human being who can have emotions and can feel and can express things. And as these roles have started to disintegrate, a lot of men are left confused with, I don't know how to win in life anymore. How do I win in relationship if my partner's making more money than me? How do I win when the things I used to be needed for, I'm not needed for in the same way? So a lot of men are just really confused with what is it I'm supposed to be? I don't want to be a macho jerk and I don't want to just be a pushover nice guy. So what am I supposed to do, right? And that's where a lot of men get really lost and get really confused. And then on top of that, for all kinds of reasons, in many cultures around the world, us men are kind of fed this narrative, which I think is wrong, of the lone wolf, that a tough man is a man who figures it out and never shows weakness and doesn't ask for help. And the thing is, that always leads to suffering. Those men end up drinking themselves to death, smoking weed, getting addicted to porn and masturbation or gambling, you name it. There's so many different things. And so us men are taught to isolate. And lo and behold, the stats these days are pretty extraordinary. Men are lonely. A lot of the old places we used to go to connect and meet other men in social clubs and sports and churches and workplaces, a lot of that's dissolving and being replaced with kind of the faux connection of social media, where sometimes, depending on where you are in the world, you don't even have to see anybody else in person, right? You can all be virtual. So, men in particular, though, because we're a little less relational and taught less to be, we're more susceptible to loneliness. And the stats are pretty crazy. Every year, it's like more and more men, particularly over the age of like 30, don't have any close friends, or they get into a family and then all their male relationships drop away and they start to feel isolated. And when you don't have a lot of male friends, what then becomes really important? Your relationship. And so it puts all this pressure on my relationship has to work. And suddenly the partner I want to be my lover has to be my best friend, my therapist, my life manager. And that is a lot of pressure on there. So a lot of men just feel lost with like, what is it I'm supposed to be in this new world? I know I don't want to be the toxic masculine, so to speak, but what's the positive version of that? And we haven't had many models of that. And then we're just also extraordinarily isolated. And that isolation, it's not just like ooh, I feel bad. They have stats. You die faster. It's as dangerous as smoking a pack of cigarettes a day, as being obese. This stuff really matters when men in particular don't feel connected. You don't live as long. So we're in a crisis point in a lot of different ways.
Right, right. So is this issue just because more women have started working, they have got this financial independence, or is it something more to it? Is market also responsible for it? Is politics also responsible for it? Are vested interests also, uh, responsible for it because it suits them if there is more discord in society? And then especially men, because uh, in terms of their requirements, they will be needing, that becomes a big market. Earlier women were a big market in terms of a lot of advertising and all, but now men also, and that in terms of now so mental health issues, in terms of so many other things, and this works for the market. So there is a lot of beating of drums around this
Mm.
issue. Help us understand this. It cannot just be that women are working and they have gotten financial independence.
No, roles are changing and things are evolving. So what's required of men is more complex now than it used to be, right? We have to do more things. And I think that's a good thing. But we have to learn new tools and techniques and strategies as well. And just as human beings, we're becoming more sensitive in a sense, right? We're aware of what happens to people when we don't get the things we need in life. And we can see previous generations suffered maybe at the physical level. And then as we go up the hierarchy of needs, we get to work different things. And so, not all the world, but parts of the world, we're getting to work more subtle things as men. And yes, the market definitely plays a role. I live here in the States, right? And capitalism here is basically, hey, whatever you're feeling inside of you, you can make it feel better by buying this thing. And as long as you're buying a thing, you're going to feel better. Get the next car, get the next iPhone, get the next cool shoes, whatever it might be. Pain, which is the thing we really need to go to really get better and deal with, well, what do I really want to feel and experience to be alive?
Right, Jason. So for a man, what is the right kind of man that he should try to be in today's time? Earlier, they used to talk about nice guys finish last. Sometimes nice guys always win. And, nowadays we don't even know who is a nice guy. Sometimes, a lot of women, there is this whole talk I see on Instagram and all these things, that a lot of people want the bad guys, and even the bad, so-called bad girls. And then when you want to settle in, it becomes opposite. So everyone is trying, is almost like, in a confused state of things. Help us understand then, how should a man, especially, and women if you can add, but since we are talking more about men, how should man see himself, you know uh, as the right kind of thing that he is following? Okay, this is the role that I need to look at in today's time.
Yeah, well, this is a great question. And I often get asked it, do women really want jerks? And what I would say is no. But the thing is, what jerks or bad boys or macho guys, I sometimes say, what they have a lot of is they move towards what they want, right? So they go for what they want, they take what they want, sometimes to the expense and damage of others, which is not the part we like. But what is often attractive about men like that is they have a sense of direction and they move towards the things they want in life. But ask any woman, and most women are like, no, I don't want a man that treats me like garbage. I want a man who treats me well. But I also want a man who's confident and moves towards what he wants and lets me know what he's thinking and feeling, right? And so for us men, the new place we're being called to step into is not just being a macho jerk, but yes, being connected to our power, being connected to our sexuality, being connected to what we want and being able to move towards it in life, while simultaneously staying open, being able to feel, being sensitive, being attuned to our relationships and frankly to the planet around us. And then beyond that, to also just be aware and be conscious of, well, what am I doing with my life? What do I want this relationship to be? And what's the most important thing? And when we have all three of those things, when we're grounded and present and powerful, when we're open and sensitive and attuned, and when we're aware of what's most important, we become this kind of new integrated, or as I say, evolutionary man that's kind of unstoppable, that is much more able to show up in the world and be a part of it in an effective way and get more of what you want as a man, right? The relationships, the money, the different things, when you're able to move towards things that you want and be connected to your heart. And we don't have many models of that, AJ. That's part of where a lot of men struggle, is we don't have many models of that in our cultures or society. So that's where guys are like, I don't know what to do. And again, it's one of the reasons I really promote men's groups, is since we don't have a lot of models of it in culture, when we start to spend time with other high quality men, we get a transmission of it. Wow, that guy right now, he's really angry or he's crying, and he still feels really powerful and trustable to me. Or how he handled that situation with his kids or his wife. That was awesome. I wish I could do that, right? He didn't lose his blow his lid or whatever. And so that transmission comes through us. And the best way we can get it in our bodies is to spend time with other men who are living it.
Right, Jason. So, how should or how can a man in today's time get started with, you know, leading the life, the healthy masculine life that that we talk about, you talk about. So, what is the way to get started? Where do you find this men's group? Secondly, you talk about, shadow work. What is this shadow work about? And help us understand so that someone who is listening to this particular show anywhere in the world, they can get started with whatever
Mhm.
resources that they have in near them.
Yeah, in terms of, men's groups and men's works, you can just Google, men's groups in my area. There's different websites, meetups, different things like that to try to find something local. Obviously, you can't find something local. The nice thing about the internet these days is you can do a lot of this virtually, right? Through Zoom and through things like this, whether it's through me or other men's organizations, just online men's groups. And you try it out, right? And you see which one feels good to you. Um, you can also read when, my mentors wrote the book No More Mr. Nice Guy, which is a really famous book that talks a lot about how to move beyond just being the nice guy and have more of this power and trustability. And then your other question of shadow work's really this idea, AJ, of for anyone that's ever had the experience of why do I keep doing something even though I don't really want to? Why do I get so mad at my kid when they X or Y? Why do I feel so hurt when my partner says this or that? And we have these big reactions or behaviors that show up in our life that we don't always understand, right? I know that it's not good for me to do this, yet I keep doing it. Or why do I get so angry when someone cuts me off in traffic, right? That's often pointing to shadow work. And what shadow work really means is there's often unfelt or unexpressed emotions from our past that we're still holding in our body that we then overlay the past onto the present. So we get overly reactive about something where it's a little out of proportion to what caused it. And so shadow work is starting to dig inside of ourselves and see what unconscious parts of my body, my mind, my heart are changing the way I'm acting in the moment without me even realizing it. So the idea of shadow, right, is it's hard to see your own shadow, right? You turn around and it's moved. But shadow work is the process of working with others to start to identify that. And again, why I support things like men's groups or coaching or therapy are other people can often see these shadows much faster than us. Hey, do you realize that every time you say that, your jaw tightens up and your voice gets a little angry? And you're like, what? What are you talking about? They can see it, they can feel it, and then we can start to become conscious of it. And once we become conscious of something, we have more choice about how to respond. So shadow work's really about bringing more consciousness to ourselves so we have more choice how we want to respond in life rather than just reacting all the time.
Right, Jason. One last question is about purpose and relationships. How should men view purpose, their purpose in life, and relationships? Many a times, relationships become the purpose. A lot of time, people say
Mhm.
work-life balance. So the life, work outside, life outside work, that is home, becomes the focal point. So how should they look at it? Sometimes, if they should. A lot of people say make work your focus because relationships can break and you will be left with nothing. People put everything into relationships. Some are happy, some are very unhappy because they have invested everything into that relationship and they are left with nothing. So how should men in today's time look at purpose and relationships? Are these two different things, or they meet together, they need to calibrate it, recalibrate it? Help us understand this.
You definitely need both. And what I say is it's hard, particularly for us men, when we're holding the masculine, it's hard for us to attract the right relationship if we're not connected to our purpose. So if we don't know where we want to set sail, it's really hard for the person we're with to know if they want to go there. If we're like, hey, do you want to get in this boat and just float around the ocean with me? They're like, I don't know. But if you're like, hey, I'm sailing there, that's where my life is going. Would you like to join me? They can be yes or a no. And ideally, you find someone who wants to sail in a similar direction as you. And for men in particular, our partnership, our relationship, when we find that right one, it actually, that relationship will help us live our deepest purpose. We will be able to accomplish more and serve the world more because of the support of our relationship, because of the nurturance and energy that it gives us. So, ideally, when it's really working well, a good relationship supports our purpose, and our purpose is what makes sure we can attract and keep the right relationship. As men, we have to have a sense of direction in our lives. If we don't have a sense of direction, it's really hard for the feminine, for women in particular, to trust us and know where we're going, because then they feel like they need to drive the boat, right? And that can be exhausting sometimes. But if we're like, hey, here's where I'm going, do you want to join me? And there's a mutual yes to that, it's pretty unstoppable. And the right partner, like I said, will actually help a man express and live his deepest purpose.
Right, right, Jason. Now, there is much to learn from you about all these things. You are man's embodiment coach, group facilitator, evolutionary guide. So, what is it that people can learn from you, from all these things that you do? So, tell us, what is the best way for people to connect with you? What is it that they can get help from you with the so many things that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Best way to connect with me is to go to evolutionary.men. So it's not .com, but it's .men. And there you can find kind of all my work. I have my own podcast, my own blog about a lot of these different topics, right? Purpose, relationships, mental health, connection, emotions, all these things that are so important for us as men. And I work with guys. I pretty much just work with men. So I work with guys one on one. I work with guys in groups. I have different programs you can do. Some are online, some are in person, but it's all about diving in and discovering yourself so you can actually be alive and live the life you want and feel energy in your body and be excited to get up in the morning and feel deeply connected to community around you.
Wonderful, wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.